So, you couldn't sleep. Again, no judgment. Insomnia has existed since the Roman Empire. They just didn't have Wi-Fi to make it worse. Lucky for you, tonight's tale doesn't require alertness, just a soft pillow and a mildly questionable sense of curiosity. Like this sort of strange bedtime ritual? Nudge the like button and maybe subscribe if you keep finding yourself here at 2 a.m. Also, let me know where you're listening from and how far past midnight you've gone. Bonus points if you're under a blanket fort. Okay, deep breath, screen dimmed. Let's tiptoe into a piece of the past they definitely didn't cover in school. Your first sensation is dust, dry, warm, coating the back of your throat like you've swallowed yesterday's sandstorm. You cough. Nothing comes out except the taste of ancient failure. The floor is not a floor, it's a suggestion of one, uneven stone patched with straw and sweat. Your back hurts. Your legs have fallen asleep. Your arms, unfortunately, have not. They're already sore, which is impressive, given that you've only just returned to consciousness. Something scratches your cheek. You open one eye. A beetle, large enough to pay taxes, is politely exiting your sleeping mat. You admire its professionalism. It does not linger. It knows this job isn't yours forever. There is no pillow. Just a folded garment, still damp with someone else's exhaustion. You do not ask who. You never ask who. Overhead, the ceiling tilts. It's not a ceiling so much as a roof trying to quit. The woven reeds sag like they've been insulted. A single drip of moisture collects and drops onto your forehead. Slow, deliberate, like it planned this. Outside, voices hum, not words, not songs. More like obligations. Sound without joy. The soundtrack of pre-modern employment. You rise, or rather your bones object. They creak like rusted hinges. Your knees make a noise that would have concerned even the gods, had they not already used you up last week. This is the part of the day where, if you were someone important, you'd stretch and sigh and reach for your servant. But you are the servant. Or worse, the servant's temporary stand-in while he's being mummified. You're not sure yet. It depends on the temple's turnover. Your name doesn't matter. It's not written down. Not in hieroglyph, not in Latin, not even scratched into clay. You are replaceable labor. And someone has already put you on the schedule. Congratulations. You exist. And now it's time to suffer. The room, generously defined, smells like roasted despair and wet limestone. There is always an undercurrent of smoke. Even if nothing is burning, something always smells scorched. Possibly your dignity. There's incense in the air too, probably from the priest's quarters 2 buildings over. Sweet, thick, and cloying, a perfume of civility meant to drown the scent of everything else. Like spraying lavender on a plague pit. It doesn't help. It only makes you suspicious of lavender. You fumble for your sandals. One is missing. The other contains a surprise. A crushed date or a cockroach that once aspired to be one. You do not flinch. This is normal. You find the missing sandal hanging from a string. It's not your string. It's not your sandal, actually. But in this economy, ownership is more of a theory than a reality. Once dressed, you step outside. It's still dark. The moon has not yet clocked out, but torches flicker here and there, the orange glow of systemic exploitation lighting the way toward another thankless morning. A rooster screams. Not crows. Screams. It lives in the overseer's hut and has seen too much. You remember your training. There wasn't any. A man once pointed to a pit and said, "Go in, don't die." That was 6 moons ago. You did die. Twice, once from inhaling something you shouldn't have, and once from being mistaken for a corpse during the temple's lunar cleansing ceremony. You got better, mostly. Since then, you've worn many titles: quarry mule, torch boy, sacrificial warm-up act, human chimney. You even got to hold a knife once. That was a good day. You only lost 3 fingers. The high priest said you bled gracefully. Today you think you might be on metal fumes duty. You saw your name, or a glyph that looked vaguely like your shoulder, scratched into a wax tablet near the mining hut. You take a deep breath, immediately regret it. The wind carries sulfur. They're already gathering, silent, sleepwalking. Broken-backed phantoms in linen wraps and soot-smeared tunics. A boy, too young to shave, shuffles by with a bucket of fire coals strapped to his chest. His eyes are still closed. He knows the route by muscle memory. He will burn his forearms today like he does every day. No one will notice. A woman sharpens obsidian against her thigh. Not a weapon, a tool. For engraving divine symbols into stone or skin depending on the commission. She does not look at you, but she does nod. That's practically a marriage proposal around here. You nod back. You are now spiritually wed. Up on the hill, the elite are waking up too. They stretch under silk. They sip something warm and spiced. They give thanks for their survival while hundreds of others give it away. One looks out the window, a scribe or an architect or a perfumed parasite of administrative importance. They see you and the others below, walking toward the pits and fires and bleeding altars. They squint, they turn away. You are already forgotten. The gods, whichever empire's pantheon is currently in charge, adore your role. You're essential, they say, vital to the rituals, sacred even. This is usually followed by you being asked to clean up after something unholy, or lie still while chanting men sprinkle crushed bone over your chest and say it's good for fertility. There is no dental plan. But occasionally, someone drops a preserved fig in your hand and calls it a blessing. You eat it. You do not question it. Blessings are edible, apparently. You reach the tool station. A man with a limp and 3 teeth hands you a curved blade. It's dull. It's always dull. That's how they know you're not going to rebel. Your weapons couldn't cut a papyrus scroll. You strap it to your hip and join the slow procession toward the main worksite. It moves like a funeral march. It probably is. The sky begins to pale, just enough to reveal the outline of a temple, half ruined, twice rebuilt, and coated in copper dust. You will climb that temple later. You will clean its gutters, which are not for water. Still awake? You're stronger than most. The day has barely begun, and you are already a cautionary tale. But don't drift off yet. There's more. Next, we explore the morning rituals of industrial death. The sun hasn't risen, but you have, because here, the workday begins before light and ends after consciousness. Not because it's productive, mind you, just because the supervisors don't believe in sunlight as a scheduling metric. Or sleep, for that matter. You walk. The ground crunches. It's not gravel. It's not sand. It's a fine blend of bone dust, broken tiles, and something that used to be a bird. Possibly a pigeon. Possibly a priest's dinner. Your sandals, the ones stolen from the remains of someone less fortunate, read yesterday's shift, slap awkwardly against your feet. The left one sticks. The right one flaps. Together they create a rhythm best described as dune shuffle. Others walk beside you. No one speaks. Words are expensive. Energy is precious. Hope is extinct. The group is a collage of anatomical failure, crooked backs, swollen joints, raw fingers, scars upon scars upon scars. One man carries his own dislocated shoulder like it's a lunch pail. Another has tied his bleeding hand with a strip of cloth stolen from a burial shroud. He has no idea it once belonged to royalty. No one tells him. He'd only be disappointed. Someone coughs behind you. A dry, hollow sound that echoes like a prophecy. 3 others instinctively step away. Not out of cruelty, just statistics. You are walking toward a place no one walks away from unchanged. Some don't walk away at all. There is no actual bell. There is instead a man. His name, if he had one, has been replaced by a sound. Think the overseer. Think the reminder. Think the human timepiece. He carries a hollow bronze disc on a chain. Every morning as the sky begins to rot from indigo to ash gray, he lifts a bone and strikes it. Once. Just once. Think, that's it. That's your cue to arrive, and survive, or attempt both simultaneously. The sound doesn't resonate, it just lands. On your spine, on your memory, on the faint thought you once had of becoming something else. Something cleaner. But that was another version of you. One with teeth and optimism. You haven't seen them in years. There is a board outside the main depot. Not made of wood. Wood is too valuable. It's a cracked slab of dried clay with names scratched into it with what looks like a chicken talon. You approach. You find your mark. It's not your name, precisely. More like your symbol. A crooked triangle with 2 dots, or perhaps a caution sign from the gods. It means you've been reassigned, from torch keeper in the catacombs to smoke monitor in the mercury mines. You nod slowly. You've heard of the mercury mines. No one returns with the same number of brain cells they arrived with. You shrug. What's 3 fewer? Before you descend into the gleaming, neurotoxic horror of the ancient industrial complex, you're treated to the ceremonial meal of function. It's not about nourishment, it's about tradition. You are handed a bowl. Inside, a paste. The color is indistinct, somewhere between ochre and a medical warning. It is warm. This is not comforting. The texture is sludgy, like wet barley that once tried to ferment but got stage fright. There's a single fig which may or may not have moved slightly. You eat it anyway, because if you don't, someone else will. And they might not have shared your wonderful immune system, forged in filth and despair. Beside you, a man dips a crust of bread into his bowl. It snaps in half. The bowl wins. He mutters something under his breath in a language that has no gods left. You both nod at each other. You are now allies. Before every dangerous task, there is a ritual. You know, for safety. Safety is a charming concept, like unicorns, or adequate pay. A priest appears. He is cleaner than you. Plumper, too. His fingers are soft, which is how you know they've never been inside a furnace. He waves incense over the group. It smells like burnt sugar and regret. He murmurs a chant meant to purify the spirit and invigorate the body. Mostly, it gives everyone a brief coughing fit and reminds you that lungs are optional here. He dips his thumb into a pot of red ochre and draws a spiral on your forehead. You feel nothing, not because it's painless. It's not. The ochre burns, because someone somewhere mixed it with vinegar and spite. You thank him anyway. He does not respond. He's already moved on to the next victim. The mines are not far, just over the ridge, past the broken statues of forgotten kings and the collapsed bridge that no one dares fix. It is said the mines were once sacred. Now they are simply efficient. The entrance is a jagged crack in the earth, rimmed with black-stained stones and broken tools. You step toward it like it's a hungry mouth, because that's what it is. It devours hours, health, and memory. Your job? To monitor smoke levels, which is a fun euphemism for sit near toxic gas vents and tell us when your vision starts to blur. You descend into the shaft. The air changes. It becomes syrupy, heavy, sweet with the scent of slow death. You hear a hiss, the sound of mercury heating in iron bowls over open flames. The process is beautiful, in theory. A symphony of alchemy and desperation. In practice, it's just heat, coughing, and silver vapor crawling into your skull like it owns the place. You settle into your station. It's a carved-out alcove, just wide enough for your knees and regrets. A torch is wedged into the rock beside you. It flickers. You flicker with it. You are given a rag to filter the air. You place it over your mouth and breathe deeply. It smells like 6 other people, none of whom are still employed. There are no clocks, only symptoms. Minute 1, lightheadedness. Minute 7, numb fingertips. Minute 15, mild hallucinations, usually birds or your childhood. Minute 23, nosebleed. Minute 30, existential peace. Or is that brain damage? You sit, you watch, you breathe in danger and exhale disappointment. Sometimes a supervisor walks by. He carries a stick, not for support, for correction. He doesn't need to say anything. His presence alone is enough to remind you that mercy is seasonal and you're in the off-season. You nod. He ignores you. You bleed slightly from one nostril. Eventually the torch burns low. A sign. Shift change. Collapse. Divine intervention. You rise too fast. The mind spins. Your legs are jello. Your mind is fog. You taste metal. You do not remember if this is normal. Someone taps your shoulder. It's a boy. 12, maybe. Covered in soot and someone else's blood. He gestures for you to go. Your shift is over. His is just beginning. You hand him the rag. He nods like you've given him gold. You climb out of the mine like you're crawling out of a dream. A bad one with no symbolism, just sickness. Back in the light, what little there is, you squint. The sun is up now, sort of, and you're still alive, but the day has barely begun. You've survived the first shift. Congratulations. You've won the right to return home, to your not home, to the vaguely rectangular space the Empire has graciously designated as your dwelling, barracks, or warm body storage. You walk there on autopilot. The route is familiar. Left at the bone pile, right at the cracked sphinx. Straight until the smell of latrine thickens into a personality. No one talks on the walk back. If they do, it's a whisper, or a cough, or a moan that sounds like someone trying to remember the taste of clean water. Your body buzzes from the inside, not from energy, from something closer to static. Your organs are confused. Your lungs taste like hot metal. Your eyes are dry in the corners but slick in the middle. It's unclear if you're crying or just leaking. Either way, welcome home. The room you technically rent. It's generous to call it a room. It's more of a compacted possibility. 4 walls, some straw, a roof that sometimes remembers to exist. A door, if you count a heavy cloth flap infested with beetles. You share it, of course, with 3 others. One snores like a dying ram. One mumbles in their sleep about taxes. The third might be dead, but no one's checked since Tuesday. You step over them, not unkindly, just efficiently. Your bed is a pile of mats woven from reeds, already collapsing from the weight of generational poverty. There is a bowl in the corner. For water, when you have it. For washing, when you're hallucinating. It currently contains a moth. You name him Gerald. You are now emotionally attached to Gerald. Personal hygiene. Conceptual. Mostly, you undress. Not completely, just enough to be cleanish. The dust clings, the soot clings, the sweat clings. You do not cling. You peel off your tunic like it's been forged to your spine. It makes a sound. You reach for your cleansing tools. There are 2, a pot of gray sand and a dull bronze scraper. Together, they create an effect best described as exfoliating via sandpaper and nihilism. You scoop a handful of sand, rub it under your arms, between your legs, across your scalp. The sand does not remove the filth. It simply shuffles it around until you feel new in a very abstract way. Then comes the scraper. You drag it along your skin with the same gentleness one might use to scrape burnt offerings off a temple floor. The sensation is invigorating. If you enjoy pain, you pause halfway through your back, unable to reach. Consider asking a roommate. Remember the snoring. Decline. Communal baths. In theory, there is a bathhouse. Somewhere. You've heard of it. Even seen it once from afar, like a myth wrapped in marble and steam. It is not for you. That place is reserved for those who know what a day off feels like, or what their children's names are, or what wine tastes like without being watered down to the consistency of broth. You, on the other hand, bathe via sponge shard and leftover hope. Your lice have seniority. You scratch your scalp. Something shifts under your fingernail. A louse, possibly an elder. You flick it onto the floor where it joins its extended family. You do not kill it. Killing it might invite retaliation. They've unionized. You've named a few of them. There's Victor, the bold one near your neckline. And Melchior, who travels frequently between armpit and inner thigh. He's a wanderer. They live rent-free. You respect that. Dental care for the desperate. You still have most of your teeth. That's a political statement, not a health one. Cleaning them is simple. You chew on a stick, spit, then pray the stick wasn't poisonous. There's toothpaste of a sort. A paste made from crushed bone, mint leaves, when in season, and disappointment. You rub it along your gums like a penance. Sometimes it foams, sometimes it burns, sometimes it tastes like fish. You do not ask why. You have learned not to ask why. Skincare, ancient style. You smear yourself with oil. It's not fragrant. It's not even entirely liquid. It's a mix of animal fat and ash, meant to seal in the health and ward off spirits. Mostly, it makes you slippery enough to evade large insects. You glisten in the twilight like a cursed eel. You catch your reflection in a shard of polished bronze. It does not recognize you. That's probably for the best. Pest control. Low-effort addition. The room has fleas. You know this because they leap with joy every time you re-enter, like dogs reunited with a long-lost owner. You light a small pile of incense in the corner. It's supposed to drive them out. It doesn't. It just makes them high. One of your roommates has taken to painting circles of goat's blood around their sleeping mat. Protective sigils, they say, against vermin. They were bitten 12 times last night. You say nothing. The fleas are winning. A brief encounter with clean water. A girl walks past the doorway with a jug. Water. Clear, cold, real. You watch it sway. You fantasize, not about drinking it. No, that's ridiculous. You imagine rinsing your fingernails in it, letting it touch your toes, whispering to it. She vanishes around the corner. You mourn. Back in bed. You lie down. The mat is damp. You do not know with what. You do not care. Your limbs settle like sandbags. Your chest rises slowly. One breath, another. A wheeze, a sigh, a cough, a resignation. A beetle scuttles across your neck. You do not flinch. You whisper to it, "Tell the others I'm clean now." It doesn't respond. Rude. Still here? Impressive. You've scraped yourself raw and fed your lice, and you're still conscious, or something close to it. But don't sleep yet. Next comes breakfast, again, but this time the food fights back. You are awake again. Not because you slept well, but because something bit your eyelid. It wasn't personal, just hungry. You rise slowly, not like a phoenix from ash, but more like a disrespected piece of laundry. Stiff, damp in the wrong places, and vaguely covered in a smell no one claims responsibility for. The sun is doing its thing, climbing reluctantly over the cracked rooftops, painting the walls a shade of death by dust. Morning has arrived, which means one thing: you must eat. Again, because despite everything, this body still demands fuel, even if it's just to better power your suffering. The queue of shame. You shuffle to the meal line. It snakes along a ditch, past a collapsed statue of a forgotten war god and a communal urination wall, which you suspect was not always communal, but entropy is democratic. Everyone looks the same here. Gray around the edges, hollow at the eyes, skin like overused leather. No one is enthusiastic, no one is surprised. You don't eat in this life for pleasure. You eat because collapsing mid-task is considered inefficient. Someone behind you sneezes. You do not turn around. That's an invitation for interaction, possibly infection, possibly conversation. No, thank you. You step forward. The breakfast station. There is no chef. There is a woman. She does not blink. She stirs a massive stone pot with a stick thicker than your arm. The contents are moving, but not boiling, more like trembling under protest. This is the porridge. You don't ask what's in it. You already know it's not food. It's yesterday's food. Rehydrated, pulverized, sanctified, and insulted back into existence. There's always a hint of barley, always something vaguely sweet, always something crunchy that shouldn't be crunchy. You've learned not to chew too hard. You receive your portion. She slops a lump into your bowl with the enthusiasm of a funeral attendee. It lands with a sound that reminds you of a head hitting temple steps, dense, wet, final. Steam rises, not in a friendly way. More like a warning. You look down at your meal. It has texture, it has bubbles, it might have an opinion. You tilt your head, it tilts back. Optional add-ons. Today's extras, if you're lucky: pickled onion, half-bitten, fermented fish paste the color of bruises, flatbread that doubles as armor in some provinces, a single boiled locust. For protein, they say. For penance, more accurately. You opt for the flatbread. It cracks your bowl. You eat it anyway. Taste notes. The porridge is warm, which is something. It coats your mouth like guilt. There's a grain you can't identify. Maybe it used to be wheat. Maybe it used to be gravel. Either way, your molars scream in protest. You find a hair, long, braided at the root. You pull it out slowly like you're extracting a worm from a wound. You whisper thanks. To whom? You're not sure. The hair is the most intact thing you've seen in days. You chew carefully now. Not because of etiquette, because of risk. Communal eating culture. You sit on the low wall by the goat pen. The goats are gone. Just the pen remains. It smells better without them. Around you, others eat, some with their fingers, some with broken spoons made from old bone and mild despair. No one talks. Mouths are busy surviving. You make eye contact with a boy across from you. He is new. His porridge has rejected him, bubbled over the edge of his bowl and attempted escape. He's still eating it. Respect. A sudden celebration. A man bursts from the bathhouse, which, again, is not for you, shouting, "They gave me honey." Everyone pauses, then turns away. No one likes a show-off. Honey is reserved for the favored, the priest's favorites, the dead, the soon-to-be dead. The honey may be a bribe or a farewell gift. You do not envy him. Not because you don't like honey, because you know how this ends. Side effects of breakfast: immediate fatigue, mild hallucinations, emotional flashbacks to a life you never lived, the urge to cry, followed by the inability to remember how. One man vomits silently beside a palm tree. Two others make a trade: flatbread for dried figs. They perform the exchange like it's sacred. You finish your bowl. It is heavier now. Somehow, you rinse it with a splash of gray water. Not clean, just different. You return it to the meal station. The woman does not acknowledge you. She stirs. She never stops stirring. The aftertaste of mortality. You sit on a low step and breathe through your nose. The taste lingers, like regret, like copper, like wet linen that's been blessed and then abandoned. Your stomach accepts the offering, for now, but you feel it, the rebellion stirring, the internal protest, the eventual reckoning. You are ready to work, to weep, to whatever comes next. Still conscious? How brave. You've eaten what history calls edible and what modern science would classify as evidence. And yet you persist. But don't drift off just yet. You're not fully dressed, and what you wear today might just kill you. The porridge has settled, or it's plotting. Either way, your stomach has stopped negotiating and your mouth tastes like forgotten wood. It's time to prepare your body for the ancient equivalent of casual business attire, if the business is dying slowly and the attire is mostly burlap. You return to your quarters. Gerald the moth greets you from the rim of the water bowl. You nod solemnly. He flicks his wings, clearly judging your outfit already. You are not stylish. You are not even clothed yet, but soon you will be both underdressed and overdressed in ways you cannot begin to defend. The wardrobe of the forgotten. Your wardrobe is a pile, a deeply personal, carefully curated pile of linen, strings, straps, wraps, and one deeply suspicious scrap of fabric that smells like onion and feels like betrayal. You pick up your tunic, it stiffens in protest. The hem is crusted, not with anything sinister, just time. You shake it out. Something falls. A pebble, a tooth, a curse. You put it on anyway. It slides over your frame like sandpaper dipped in vinegar. It sticks in the wrong places and flows in none of the right ones. It's stained, scorched, and suspiciously moist under the left arm, even though you washed it 2 solstices ago. Color palette, dirt with a side of blood. Clothing in theory is meant to protect. Here it mostly indicates your rank in the food chain. You are a bottom feeder, a lint-level life form. Your linen wrap is dyed the color of mildewed ivory. Once it was white perhaps, or light gray, or ambitious. Now it is stained with iron ox ceremonially acquired, ash from the daily fires, plant dye, accidental from a vat you fell into, and one inexplicable streak of blue you've stopped questioning. It blends well with the environment, which is fortunate because being noticed is a liability. The belt of holding, everything and nothing. Next, the belt. A strip of goat leather, cracked like riverbed clay. It wraps twice around your waist and ties into a knot that never stays put. Attached to it are your tools. A dull blade for slicing fruit when there is fruit, a flint striker that never works when you need it, a charm bag containing dust and hope, and a bone needle wrapped in sinew for emergency stitching of wounds, tunics, or pride. You tie it all together. It immediately shifts to one side, throwing your spine out of alignment. Tradition. Shoes, a tragedy in 2 parts. You look at your sandals. They look back. Constructed from woven reeds and broken dreams, your footwear is less protective gear and more polite suggestion. One strap has snapped. The other is being held together by waxed thread and what might be ancient gum. You slide your feet in, your toes peek out, your heels hang off, your sandals sigh. Accessorizing for survival. There are optional add-ons to the uniform, if you can find them. A cloth head wrap to block the sun and absorb the sweat. A thin scarf blessed by a priest meant to ward off evil breath. Spoiler, it doesn't. A palm frond visor, if you're feeling fancy. A single bronze earring, if you're mourning someone, or if you are someone being mourned. You pick the scarf. It smells faintly of incense, mildew, and something floral. You tie it loosely. The knot falls apart twice. On the 3rd try, you give up and bite the corner. It hangs from your teeth like a defiant flag. The ritual of the wrap. In some civilizations, wrapping cloth around the body is an art. Here, it is a test of motor skills and pain tolerance. You wrap once around the waist, twice over the shoulder, tuck under the armpit. Realize you've just trussed your dominant arm to your ribs. Undo it. Try again. The fabric sticks to your skin. Your skin protests. A bug emerges from one fold. You name him Horatio. You set him free. Eventually, you look like someone who might belong here. Not a priest, not a scribe, not even a dedicated craftsman. You look like what you are, a placeholder for death. A note on fabric technology. Thread count? Try thread guess. The linen was woven in haste by someone who no longer has fingers. It tears when you breathe deeply. It stiffens when wet. It bursts into flame near open torches, which is ideal. Given your proximity to open torches, it itches. Not occasionally, always. It itches in the deep way. In the way that only cursed garments and emotional trauma do. Final touches, optional but inevitable. A smear of mud under the eyes to reduce glare. A swipe of oil across your arms to keep the bugs away, but only attracts larger bugs. A charm tied around your wrist. A loop of twine with a bead made from a deceased cousin's rib, blessed allegedly. You step back from your reflection, not a mirror, exactly. A polished copper plate. You look ready. Ready for labor, ready for sacrifice, ready to be mistaken for someone else's property. You are dressed badly. But that's the uniform of survival. Still with us? You've wrapped yourself in unwashed prophecy and managed to tie your sandals without crying. You're stronger than most. But before the work begins, there's one more thing you need. a refresher in what passes for medicine. Spoiler, it's mostly bleeding. You are now dressed. Poorly, yes, but technically clothed, and that's enough for the civilization to decide you're employable. Your limbs ache, your stomach swirls with questionable porridge, and your sandals are one good sneeze away from disintegration. Time to begin your shift. Not the kind of shift where you sit in a chair and type passive-aggressively into a spreadsheet. No, this shift involves heat, stone, blood, smoke, and just a little divine judgment. You don't have a job title, just a function and a replacement waiting in the wings. Your place in the chain of misery. You are not an artisan. You are not a scholar. You are a body with a pulse. That makes you eligible for any number of horrifying occupations. Today, you are a miner of sulfur in the deeper caves beneath the Temple of Forgetting, or a hauler of wet bricks for the new flood wall, or a grinder of sacred pigments from poisonous beetle shells, or a cleaner of ritual basins post-bloodletting, gloves not included. It changes based on who didn't show up, and many don't show up, which is why you're now wearing two badges. Not badges, marks. One scrawled in charcoal on your forearm, the other cut into your sandal with a heated nail. They denote where you belong. You never belong anywhere good. You report to the overseer. He is tall, not because of his genetics but because of the wooden platform strapped to his sandals. He walks on stilts made of bureaucracy. You have never seen his actual feet. He does not greet you. He gestures. At the bricks, you nod. At the pain. Task 1. Carry the impossible. The bricks are not small. They are large, moist, and morally offensive. They weigh as much as your will to live. They're made from a mixture of river clay, ash, straw, and regret, shaped into oblong hunks and stacked in perfect rows. Because the gods demand order, and you supply the agony. You carry 2 at a time, 1 on each shoulder. The edges cut, the weight compresses. Your spine mutters curses in dead dialects. You are now shorter by half an inch. By your 10th trip, you have entered the fugue state known as temple-hauling serenity, where your vision tunnels and all sound becomes drumbeat. You drop the bricks, you pick up more. You repeat. A note on tools. You have no tools. You are the tool. If you need to shape something, you do it with your hands. If you need to lift something, you do it with your back. If something breaks, it's your fault. If you break, you are weak. Your only equipment is a thin cloth pad for your forehead and a wooden wedge for your shoulder, which doesn't fit and smells like dead fish. You name it, Cedric. Cedric offers no support. Task 2. Alchemical exposure. Midday, you are reassigned. Apparently, the ritual scribes have run out of ochre pigment for the holy scrolls, and so you are sent to the beetle basins. Here's how it works. Collect bugs from a stone pit where they've been encouraged to breed in filth and rot. Crush them using a pestle the size of a toddler. Boil the resulting paste in a cauldron heated by dried camel dung. Inhale the fumes and try not to pass out. You fail step 4. Briefly, you collapse beside the cauldron. No one notices. You wake up 3 minutes later with red pigment crusting your nostrils and your tongue tasting of raisins and iron. The scribes thank you by not acknowledging you. Lunch break, unofficial. You are not told to stop, but your body insists. You sit behind a cart full of broken statues. The broken pieces are still more valuable than you. You chew on a strip of dried yam skin. You do not remember where you got it, possibly from the ground, possibly from your pocket, possibly from a hallucination. Either way, it's better than the porridge. A fellow worker sits beside you. He nods once, then promptly vomits behind the cart. You nod in return. Task 3. Temple maintenance. Afternoon arrives like a punch. You are summoned to the main temple grounds. The ritual from last night, something about moon cycles and ancestral vengeance, has left a mess. Your job? Scrape dried blood off the altar steps using a flat bone. Polish the ceremonial blade with fine sand and spit. Burn herbs to cover the smell of rot. Sprinkle flowers you can't afford to touch. The priests hover nearby. They chant. They don't help. They wear white robes. Your hands are red. You finish cleaning just as the evening sun slants in, turning the stone steps golden. It's beautiful. You are too tired to care. Evaluation and threats. You line up at the end of the shift. The overseer walks down the row. He looks you up and down. You look like a collapsed tent. He grunts. You are deemed adequate. Your reward is continued employment. The man beside you is limping. He is deemed inefficient. He is escorted away. You do not ask where. No one ever returns from wherever that is. Walking back with fewer bones. You return to your quarters. Your legs are noodles. Your back is a question mark. Your skin is crusted with pigment, dirt, sweat, and divine fluids. A child throws a pebble at your sandal. It does not register. You reach your door. You see Gerald the moth. He has not moved. You are grateful for his consistency. You collapse onto your mat. Not sleep yet, just stillness. The work is done. The exhaustion is religious. Still awake? You've hauled bricks, crushed beetles, and cleaned altars with your bare hands, and somehow you still have brain cells firing, even if they're firing in the wrong direction. But don't slip away just yet. It's time to learn what happens when the body fails and medicine arrives. Spoiler, it's mostly leeches and lies. You've made it through another shift. Barely. Your legs are humming, your lungs are whispering secrets, your lower back is writing a formal complaint in hieroglyphs. And now, finally, you're allowed to seek medical attention. Not because you want to, not because anyone offered, but because your left arm won't stop twitching and your vision now includes extra people. You stand, you wobble, you make your way to the healer's hut, a sacred euphemism for that place where everything hurts more before it hurts less. The clinic, if you can call it that, it's not a building. It's a lean-to made of palm fronds, goat hides, and professional indifference. Inside you see one table, stone slab, blood-streaked. One cot, reeds, questionable moisture. A collection of tools that all look like either dental equipment or torture souvenirs. And the healer himself, half-blind, shirtless, smells of nutmeg and fear. He's humming to himself. He's not currently attending to anyone, just stirring a pot of greenish liquid with what appears to be a rib. You try not to ask what species. He looks up. He frowns. You've interrupted his rhythm. The examination. He gestures. You sit. The table is sticky. You do not ask why. He squints at you, then grabs your chin between two fingers stained ochre and possibly tobacco. He turns your face left, right, up, down, grunts. Then, he taps your chest with a gourd. Listens. Taps again. Listens more. Then have you seen spiders lately? You pause, clarify. Real ones? He does not respond. He nods, as if your question confirmed his theory. He writes something on a scrap of bone. Diagnosis, spirits in the blood. Treatment, purge through holes. The tools of the trade. He shows you the options. The hot blade cauterizes what might not even be open. The leeches. Names include Damaris, Kren, and Little Nibbler. The syringe horn. Not a syringe. A goat horn filled with liquid fear. The trepanation mallet. Only for special occasions, like headaches or thinking too much. You choose option 2, the leeches. Not because they're better, just quieter. You are now a buffet. He opens a clay jar. Steam rises, so do several glossy, sentient tubes of malice. He selects 3, places them gently on your forearm. They latch on with the affection of unpaid interns. You do not scream, just hiss through your teeth. The healer smiles. This is his idea of a 5-star Yelp review. You sit still. The leeches pulse. Your arm twitches. The room smells like swamp and basil. One of the leeches makes eye contact. Mid-treatment conversation, he offers you a drink. You decline. He insists. You sip. It tastes like fermented licorice and spoiled onion. You swallow out of self-defense. He explains in great detail that your humors are out of balance. You have too much black bile and not enough wind essence. You ask what that means. He launches into a story about a man who sneezed himself inside out. You nod. The leeches nod with you. Minor surgery, ancient style. Then he pulls out the needle. It's bronze. It's bent. It's been used. You can still see thread clinging to it like a warning. He says he's going to seal the energy portals near your spine. This involves stitching nothing to nothing over raw skin using thread made from, you guessed it, ceremonial gut. He doesn't ask if you're ready. He begins. You bite down on your scarf. The thread drags like flossing a wound. He hums louder. You see stars, not metaphorically. You actually see several distant stars cluster behind your eyelids. One of them winks, post-treatment consultation. The leeches are full. One falls off, fat and satisfied. It rolls slightly. You envy its life. The healer sprinkles crushed herbs onto the holes in your arm. They burn. He says that means they're working. You believe him, mostly because your skin has gone numb. He hands you a talisman. It's a dried lizard foot tied to a rock. He tells you to sleep with it on your chest for cosmic drainage. You nod. You would nod at anything right now. He pats your head with surprising tenderness. Don't eat anything green, he says. You never intended to. The walk of shame and bandages. You leave the hut bandaged, leaking, dizzy, and spiritually unbalanced, which in this society is the standard of care. You pass others waiting in line. One man has a broken leg. Another is foaming slightly. A child is carrying a dead bird and asking if it can be fixed. You wish them luck. You return to your mat. Gerald the moth flutters slightly. You show him your bandages. He looks unimpressed. You lie down. The stitches pull. The bite marks throb. Your arm feels cleaner, but only in a theoretical sense. You hold the lizard foot talisman to your chest. It smells like basil and lies. You close your eyes. You do not sleep. You simply hover between pain and fever, between history and headache, between this life and the next one waiting in line. Still alive? Technically? Then well done. You've been bled, bitten, burned, and stitched, all in the name of balance. And there's still more to do, because guess what? It's time for dinner. You survived the leeches, and the bone needle, and the basil-tasting potion that may or may not have contained lizard urine. Congratulations. You're back in your room now. Not because it's comfortable, but because you've run out of places to collapse. Your mat groans beneath you, or maybe that's you, or Gerald the moth, who now sleeps near your temple like a tiny velvet sentry. But just as your body begins to remember what horizontal means, a bell rings, not a real bell. More like a banging of ladles on copper bowls and someone shouting food, or something like it. Dinner has arrived. The final trial of the day, the dinner cue, now with 60% less dignity. You drag yourself upright, your body protests, your bandages itch. The lizard foot talisman on your chest has grown warm, but that might be the fever. You limp toward the meal line, following the scent of steam, firewood, and defeat. It's not a smell you recognize as appetizing. More like inevitable. The line is shorter than it was at breakfast. That's not a good sign. You stand behind a woman with one shoe and no eyebrows. In front of you, a boy is crying silently. He has a bowl. That's all that matters. You forgot your bowl. You turn around. No bowl. You look down. You're holding your sandal. Close enough. Today's menu. Diminishing returns. You reach the front of the line. The cook is different tonight. Older. One eye. Less ambition. He ladles a thick, greenish sludge into your sandal without blinking. He's done this before. The smell hits you first. A mix of boiled onion, garlic that lost its will to live, and something faintly fishy, but not the fish you'd choose to meet. More like the ghost of a fish that died badly. Floating in the mixture, a chickpea. Singular, possibly hallucinated. A shred of something leafy. Might be a herb. Might be parchment. A lump of protein, shaped like a promise. Tastes like a dare. You accept it. You nod. You walk away, holding your sandal like a chalice of regret. Dining arrangements. You sit beneath a crumbling statue of a forgotten fertility goddess. She's missing her face and both arms. Relatable. Around you, others eat in silence. The only sound is chewing and the occasional erp from someone brave enough to swallow quickly. You dip your fingers into your sandal bowl. The liquid is hot, oily, and thicker than soup, but thinner than porridge. It clings to your skin like sap and judgment. You scoop, you chew, you try not to taste. Texture and trauma, let's break it down. Mouthfeel, slippery, then fibrous. Flavor profile, tangy, earthy, slightly sour, definitely fermented. Surprise elements, a hair, short, curly, not yours. A pebble, possibly a tooth. Aftertaste, like old garlic stuffed into a boot and left in the sun. You chew with your molars. Your canines gave up months ago. You try not to think about last night's prophecy. If the stew is thin, someone died. If the stew is thick, someone couldn't be buried fast enough. Tonight's stew is very thick. Unexpected generosity. A man you recognize, missing most of his fingers, known for shouting at crows, sits beside you. He offers you a crust of bread. You hesitate. He nods once, solemnly. You take it. It's hard enough to break teeth, but it soaks up the stew nicely. You've never been more grateful for potential dental injury. You say thank you. He says nothing. He's already licking his bowl clean. It's a skull, not metaphorical. Dinner entertainment. Across the square, someone is playing a bone flute. It's not good. The tune is somewhere between a dirge and a goat scream, but it's something, a rhythm, a pattern. A reminder that people still try to make beauty, even here, even now, even with instruments made from their predecessors. A woman dances, badly, but with joy, or maybe madness. It's a thin line here. You stop chewing just long enough to smile. Then the stew hits your lower intestine. Smile fades. Dining disruptions. Suddenly, a shout. A man clutches his throat and topples forward. Bull flies. Stew sprays. People scatter. Choking. Poison. Divine punishment. The cook appears. Shrugs, pulls the man behind a curtain. He returns, wipes his hands, continues serving. You take another bite. That's just dinner. The cleanup ritual. You return your sandal to your foot. It squelches slightly. You do not flinch. You wipe your fingers on your tunic. You were going to wash it eventually, during the next comet perhaps. You rub your belly, not in satisfaction, more in negotiation. Please, you whisper to your stomach, not until I'm near the latrine. Your stomach gurgles. That's a maybe. Digesting in dread. You return to your mat. Your body is heavy, not with food, with decisions. The stew is sitting just below your lungs, planning its next move. It might stay. It might not. You lie down. Gerald the moth lands gently on your forehead. You do not brush him away. You are one now. Moth and man, both full of soup and sorrow. Still with me? Remarkable. You've eaten what historians would call a typical meal and what modern gastroenterologists would call a mistake. And yet you endure. But the night is far from over. Soon you'll be judged by your gods, your neighbors, and the haunted chicken bones buried in the temple. Because next, we examine superstition, religion, and social surveillance. Night has fallen. Not gently, not like a velvet curtain or a lullaby, more like a dropped tapestry, heavy, tangled, and vaguely damp. You lie on your mat. Your stomach is relatively quiet. Your bandages are crusting over. Your breath tastes like stew and secrecy. And just as sleep dares approach, you hear the bells. Not the dinner bells, not the work whistles. These are thinner, sharper, fickle things made of bone and bronze, tied with sacred thread, and rattled by old women with better memories than mercy. It is time for the nightly rituals. You are not invited, but you must attend. Because in this civilization, faith is mandatory. The walk to penance, you rise again. Your joints creak in protest. Gerald the moth clings to your shoulder like a passenger unwilling to disembark. Outside, the sky is split with stars as if the gods themselves cracked a window to check in, then promptly closed it again. You follow the others through narrow alleys lit by torchlight and suspicion. The temple looms ahead, a silhouette of domes, spires, and regret. Carved into its stone, 1,000 faces. Some serene, most screaming. You recognize one, possibly your predecessor. The temple, never quiet. You pass under the archway. It's too short. Everyone stoops. They say it's for humility. It's really just poor architecture. Inside, incense. Thick, choking, smells like burning honey and ancient sandals. A high priest glides across the floor in spotless robes. You suspect he hovers. He hasn't blinked since the solstice. He does not look at you. He looks through you, which is somehow worse. Offerings you can't afford. Everyone brings something. A carved token. A single feather. A fruit with only minor rot. A bloodied rag from a blessed injury. A tooth. You forgot to bring anything. You consider offering Gerald the moth. He gives you a look. You retract the thought. Instead, you pluck a splinter from your sandal and present it solemnly on the altar plate. The priest accepts it without a word. It is now sacred. The chanting, the ceremony begins. There is a circle, there is humming, there is swaying. You join in. Not because you believe, but because not joining in gets you noticed. And being noticed is worse than being wrong. The chant is in a tongue that predates vowels. It vibrates in your jaw and behind your eyes. You hum along. Badly. No one minds. Or they pretend not to. This is not about perfection. It's about surveillance. Religion as crowd control. You are not here to be blessed. You are here to be watched. Everyone is watching everyone. Did you bow deep enough? Did you whisper the correct curse to keep the demons out of your marrow? Did you bring your mourning bead? Did you forget to not smile during the ash blessing? One wrong glance, one mispronounced syllable, and you're labeled. Impure, heretic, skeptic, contaminated, unclean. And once you're labeled, you're marked. And once you're marked, well, you'll sleep alone. Or never again. The cursed chicken bones. At the center of the altar is a bowl. Inside, charred chicken bones. They are shaken. They are dropped. They are read by a hunched woman with white eyes and a tongue blackened from too much prophecy. She declares, a storm comes from the east. It will take the weak. Everyone gasps. You nod solemnly. You have no idea where east is. Still, good to be prepared. Personal confession. Publicly your name or your symbol is called. You step forward. You kneel on the blood-stained mat. You are asked, did you curse the sun today? Did you spill sacred water? Did you sleep during the midday chant? Did your stew boil unevenly? You answer, no, maybe, only a little, I don't know. A child throws a fig at you, it misses. This is considered divine forgiveness. You are allowed to rise. The fig is sacred now. No one touches it. The blessing of ash. The priest flicks ash onto your face. It burns slightly. That means it's working. The ash is made from yesterday's prayer scrolls and the fingers of a defrocked monk, or so the stories say. You accept it with grace, by which we mean you don't flinch, by which we mean your legs have gone numb and can't flinch anyway. Midnight observance. The ceremony ends. You are handed a candle. You must place it at your doorway. If it stays lit, you are pure. If it goes out, you are cursed. If it explodes, you've angered someone specific. You return home. Set the candle down. Gerald perches beside it. You whisper, watch this for me. He blinks. Back on the mat. You are now clean, spiritually. Your body is still filthy, but your soul, freshly ash-wiped and socially observed, is approved for sleep. You curl on your side. The candle flickers. You stare at it. It wavers. You hold your breath. It survives. You exhale. For now, you are safe. For now, you are holy. For now, the gods and your neighbors will let you sleep. Still conscious? Then you've passed inspection. You've bowed, burned, been blessed, and not been accused of heresy. A productive night. But before the gods can reclaim your dreams, you still have to face fun. Yes, ancient fun. You've been bled, scraped, blessed, and fed, using that term loosely. Your limbs ache, your candle flickers. Gerald the moth snores gently, in moth terms, and yet somehow you're still awake. Which means, tragically, you have time for leisure. Yes, that mythical slice of the day allotted to rest, amusement, and voluntary activity. Here in the ancient world, leisure is a strange beast. Half luxury, half surveillance. Always sticky. Free time. A conditional phrase. The elders call this the hour of rest. The scribes call it civil dusk. The workers call it, oh, I'm still alive? It happens after ceremony, before curfew, between punishment and sunrise. You're not required to enjoy it, but it's suspicious if you don't. So you do what everyone does. You pretend to relax. Community games that hurt. In the courtyard, someone has set up a game. It's simple. A clay disc, a stick, several rocks arranged in a vague triangle, and rules no one agrees on. It's called something untranslatable, roughly, strike the unfortunate. You join a group of tired adults, a few children, and one old man who plays like his life depends on it. The object, hurl the disc, knock down the rocks, avoid hitting anyone important. You do poorly. The old man laughs. He calls you twig spine. You smile. You've just made a friend, or a rival, possibly both. Board games for the literate and the lucky. In the shade of the temple wall, 3 men huddle around a carved wooden board. Tiny stones mark spaces. Patterns emerge. Moves are muttered. It's a game of strategy. No dice, just decisions. You watch. One player flicks a piece off the board and declares, "You've dishonored the rain spirits." The other player shrugs, counters with, "Your mother sleeps with the wind god." The third player sighs, sweeps the board clean. They start again. You ask the rules. They say, "There are none." You do not join. Theater of the absurd, literally. A group of young men have painted their faces with charcoal and ash. They perform a story or a warning. It's hard to tell. There is miming. There is chanting. There is, at one point, a dramatic reenactment of a donkey stealing a priest's sandals. The crowd roars with laughter. Someone gets slapped for laughing too loudly. The performer bows. You clap quietly. Because technically, you're still on probation for laughing during last week's flood reenactment. Music and other crimes. A boy strums a lyre. It has 3 strings. 2 are in tune. The third is possessed. He plays a lullaby that was outlawed last harvest due to causing melancholic defection. Everyone hums along. An older woman sings. Her voice cracks. People cry. Even the statue nearby seems to weep, though it may just be leaking. You close your eyes. The melody clings like honey to a scar. Then the lyre string snaps. Someone curses. The moment ends. Back to normal. Law always watching. While the people play, the guards walk. They don't smile. They don't stop. They don't speak unless to ask, "Why are you sitting alone?" Or "Where did you get that fig?" Their armor creaks. Their eyes scan. They carry batons carved with inscriptions, order through obedience. They also carry lists of names of infractions, of who looked too happy during the moon dance. You've been on the list before. You try not to be again. Crime and Punishment, Low Stakes Edition. A commotion. Someone's goat has eaten someone else's sacred scroll. They're shouting. The goat burps. A guard arrives, asks no questions, takes the goat. The owner pleads. The scroll owner smirks. The goat is escorted away. Justice, or something like it. Gossip, the real game. In the corners, whispers swirl like incense smoke. Did you hear about the scribe who tripped in the river? They say the new priest has soft hands. Dangerous. Someone's child was born with webbed feet. Prophecy. I saw her stew bubble in the wrong direction. You sit with two others. They whisper about a woman who dreams of birds that don't exist. You mention Gerald. They nod solemnly. I had a moth once. It predicted my cousin's illness. You ask if the cousin recovered. She shrugs. We buried him with the moth. You do not tell Gerald. Forbidden funds somewhere. Someone is carving something rude into a temple wall. It will be scraped off tomorrow and redrawn the next day. This is tradition. Night watch and closing time. Eventually, the bell sounds. Real this time. A low chime. Leisure is over. You return to your room. Gerald waits, flicking his wings like a disappointed house cat. Your bones throb from the community game. Your throat is sore from whispering. You feel something, a flicker of joy, a breath of almost. Then it fades. Because nothing here is just leisure. It's performance, participation, prevention. You sleep, not because you're ready, because you're allowed. Still drifting, you just survived fun, the ancient kind, the sort where smiles are mocked and laughter is taxed. But we're not done. Next. Romance. Yes, love, or its warped socially approved imitation. You wake not from sleep, but from stillness. Your joints have rusted into place. Your eyelids are sandpaper. Your dreams were suspiciously absent, possibly taxed by the priesthood. Gerald the moth is gone, off to attend to his own courtship probably. Which brings us, regrettably, to romance. You may be asking, was there love in ancient times? Yes, but not the kind with candlelight and violins. More the kind with livestock negotiations and aggressive eye contact during communal bread-making. Love exists here, but it does not flirt. It barters. Courtship. Bureaucratic edition. If you're lucky, and very few are, romance begins not with a glance, but with documentation. An elder must approve. A parent must provide a goat or a reasonable substitute. A witness must verify that neither of you has already been promised to someone else, cursed, or recently exhumed. Then there's the contract, handwritten, stamped in wax, smelled by a temple hound for good measure. Only then can you proceed to what the scrolls call mutual familiarization. Modern translation. Standing near each other until someone coughs. Flirting techniques, questionable. There are many ways to say I like you in your society. Gift a beetle shell with your initials scratched into it. Offer them a well-ripened fig and look away quickly. Light a torch for them at the evening ritual, but never make direct eye contact. Or, the boldest move, share your drinking bowl and allow them to sip first. You once saw someone braid a palm leaf into a heart shape. They were fined for wasting materials. Personal experience. Mildly tragic. There was someone once, a fellow worker, one eye, quiet voice, knew all the songs about floods and funerals. You shared a tool once, a scraper. Their hand brushed yours. You both pretended not to notice. That night, they were reassigned to the salt flats. You never saw them again. You still have the scraper. It doesn't work anymore. You keep it anyway. Marriage. Not romantic, just permanent. If your flirtation miraculously survives bureaucracy, gossip, plague, and divine disinterest, you may be allowed to marry. The ceremony is short. There's incense, a song, a circle drawn in charcoal around your feet. Then you are each handed a rope. You tie it around each other's waists. A priest says, now you may share shade. You are now legally bound to share housing, food, moldy tools, regret, abundant. Divorce exists, but it requires 7 witnesses and proof that at least one of you is already haunting the other. Intimacy, rare, brief, supervised. There is no such thing as privacy. If you are married, you are assigned a privacy sheet, a rectangle of linen held up by family members while you attempt to conceive. They do not watch, but they listen. There are fertility chants. There is sage smoke. There is a midwife whose only job is to shout encouragement through the curtain. You get 1 hour. Then the next couple takes the mat. You do not make eye contact in the morning. Forbidden love. Occasionally, there's a story. A scribe who fell for a servant. A temple guard who stole kisses from a spice vendor. A farmer who secretly wed a goat. This one's debated. When discovered, these unions are annulled, mocked, turned into morality plays for children's festivals. You once saw a play where a couple in love turned into frogs. No explanation was given. You clapped anyway. Romantic gifts. Acceptable tokens of affection include a single feather, a pebble shaped like an eye, a slice of dried turnip, a lock of hair tied with sacred string, a broken tool from my hand to yours. Unacceptable gifts, personal poems, punishable by exile, unlicensed statues, punishable by smashing, uncooked meat, punishable by food poisoning. The love gods and their terrible advice. There are deities for love, but they are not kind. One is shaped like a pregnant deer with fangs. Another has 7 arms and throws honey at enemies. You pray to them not for affection, but for survival. A common prayer: let me not love someone who gets reassigned to the volcano mines. Let me not love someone who has 6 other partners. Let me not love someone who's already promised to a merchant's daughter in the next village over. Love here is a bargain, not a miracle. Your romantic life. Today you lie on your mat. Gerald returns. He lands near your chin, flutters once, settles. You whisper to him, do moths marry? Do they court? Do they suffer? He twitches. You decide that's a yes. You fall asleep wondering what it might be like to love someone who knows your actual name. Not your labor number. Not your altar designation, just your name. Maybe in the next life, or the next village, or in a dream you can't afford tonight. Still here? Still feeling feelings in this climate? Bold of you. Romance in ancient times isn't about kissing in the moonlight. It's about surviving long enough to remember what that might feel like. But don't drift off just yet. Because now we turn to the tiny ones. The children, the workers in training, the small bones. The future archaeologists will mislabel. It is morning. Again, of course it is. Time is relentless here. Cyclical, grinding, like a hand mill that doesn't care what kind of grain you were. You're sitting by the temple gate watching the next shift stumble past, a procession of elbows and eye bags, when you hear it. Laughter, small, bright, and utterly out of place. You turn, and there they are. Children. Not many, not smiling long, but undeniably children. Running barefoot over cracked stone, dodging dung piles with the precision of trained warriors. One is wearing a pot on his head. Another wields a stick shaped like a sword. A third is very earnestly eating a bug. They are playing. For now. Give them a few years or months and they'll be like you. But for this fleeting moment, they are small, noisy, and still mostly unbroken. Childhood, technically. In your world, childhood exists, but only as a brief and slippery transition, like dew on morning sandstone. Visible, delicate, evaporated by noon. By the age of 5, you're considered functional. By 7, you're expected to contribute. By 10, you've either joined the workforce or the afterlife. There are no toys unless you count bones. There are no lullabies unless you count the hum of a distant kiln. But there is mischief. And mischief is eternal. Games played with rocks, sticks, and lies. You remember the games. They required imagination and a high tolerance for injury. Herd the invisible goat. A game where children scream and chase nothing across the courtyard. Adults assume it's a metaphor. Who stole the amulet? Someone always did. The punishment is always pretend, until it isn't. Don't wake the priest. Played outside the high priest's quarters. Whoever is caught loses a week's porridge. Maggot catch. The rules are unclear, but the bucket always ends up full. You once won at stick balance. Your prize was a pebble shaped like a snail. You still have it, you think. Education. There is a school. It's a bench under a tree. The teacher is a retired scribe with one good eye and a tendency to forget what decade it is. The curriculum includes how not to die in a flood, which mushrooms whisper and which ones bite, counting using goat legs, writing your name in clay without crying. You graduated at age 8. That was the day you learned the word tax. You've never emotionally recovered. The child labor department. Once you're tall enough to hold a bucket, you're in. Jobs available to children include fire fanner, sit next to the oven and keep the embers alive with your breath and tiny hopes. Chant echoer, repeat the priest's words so they sound louder to the gods and to the congregation. Grain stomper, yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Sweat collector, harvestable, apparently, for rituals involving purity and salt. Sick days are allowed. Once, then you're reclassified. You don't want to be reclassified. The youngest soldiers. There's a story about a boy who caught a falling roof tile and saved the temple scribe. He was 6. They gave him a badge and a job guarding scrolls, and then he disappeared. Some say he was recruited, some say he became a scroll. Some say the gods are clumsy and needed a scapegoat. You choose to believe he's happy, even if that happiness involves living in a jar. Parenting, in theory. Most adults are too tired to raise children, which is why everyone raises them. The blacksmith yells when they steal tools. The priest blesses them when they sneeze. The healer gives them bitter root for nightmares. The elders tell them stories that are 40% truth and 60% mild threats. There are no lullabies, just whispers. If you wake the dead, they'll trade places with you. If you lie, the river will tell your secrets. If you fall asleep outside, the stars will mark you for the harvest. You once believed all three, still kind of do. Disappearances and replacements. Sometimes a child vanishes. They were needed elsewhere, for a festival, for a task, for a special duty. No one asks too many questions, but someone always whispers a name that sounds like a spell: the archive, the tomb school, the sky basket. In their place comes another child, smaller, newer, already watching. Children learn quickly here. That's how they stay children, for a little while longer. Then you remember being a child, not vividly, more like echoes. You remember holding a bowl that was too big for your hands. You remember running through dust and laughing until someone told you to stop. You remember a woman, mother, aunt, neighbor, tying a charm around your neck and saying, "This will keep your name attached to your body." You don't wear the charm anymore. You still hope it worked. Now watching you see the kids by the well, flicking pebbles at frogs and pretending to cast spells. A boy trips, scrapes his knee, he stares at the blood, then smears it on the wall with a grin. You nod. You did that once, they'll be adults soon. Then workers. Then someone else will be watching them. Still here? Good. You've remembered what it means to be small and invincible, until the world reminds you otherwise. But you're not alone, because now we meet the other residents, the quiet ones, the crawling ones, the pets, the vermin, and the blurred line between. You wake to scratching, not internal for once. This is external, rhythmic, deliberate. You sit up. Gerald the moth is perched on your chest, very still. His antennae twitch like warning flags. You hear the sound again, claws on clay, teeth on reed, footsteps too small to be human. And so we arrive at the other inhabitants of your home. The four-legged, winged, multi-eyed, whisper-legged creatures that fill the cracks between people. They are not pets, they are not pests, they are occupants. Some are tolerated, some are named, some are worshipped, some eaten, some are all four. Domesticated companions, sort of. You know a man who owns a cat. He says owns, but the cat lives in the priest's garden, eats temple birds, and occasionally leaves offerings of decapitated lizards on ceremonial mats. The man insists it's a sign of affection. The cat has never touched him. Another woman raises a crow. It speaks 2 words, more and no. No one taught it these words. It simply learned from observation. You once met a goat with 1 horn and 3 owners. It attended funerals. It never bleated. It stared into fires. They say it understood grief. They also say it could climb ladders. No one could prove either. Gerald the moth. And then there's Gerald. He arrived one morning, or perhaps he was always there. A fat-bodied moth with dusty wings and impossible patience. He lands beside you at night. Flutters near your water bowl. Sleeps in the crook of your elbow. He is your confidant, your witness, your unofficial therapist. You've told him things you've never said aloud, that you sometimes forget your own name, that you once stole a blessed fig, that you dream of stairs that only go down. Gerald listens. He never interrupts. You worry he understands too much. Vermin with tenure. Now let's meet the other housemates. Rats. Everywhere. Fast. Clever. Plump with secrets. You once saw one drag a piece of charcoal through sand to draw a circle. You told no one. Roaches. Predate the gods. Survive the rituals. Glow slightly when blessed by mistake. Spiders, sacred in some corners, feared in others. The small ones bite, the large ones just watch. Worms, only visible after heavy rain. Worship briefly during flood season. Dried and crushed into poultices when desperate. You've probably eaten a few, by accident, mostly. Blurred lines. Now ask yourself, what defines a pet? Is it love? Is it tolerance? Is it the fact that you've named them and they haven't bitten you in 3 days? You once kept a lizard in a clay pot. You fed it dead flies. It never escaped even when the pot was tipped. You think it liked you, or you think it feared what was outside the pot more than what was inside. Relatable. Mythic creatures, probably real. Some animals defy categories. There's a rumor of a golden jackal that guards the tombs. It only appears when you speak the name of your mother while bleeding. Another tale tells of winged serpents that coil in the high temple beams. They descend only during eclipses and whisper regrets into sleepers' ears. You once dreamed of a three-eyed fox with a lantern in its mouth. In the dream, it told you, "Eat more figs. The gods are watching." You woke with a fig in your hand. No one knows how. You didn't eat it. You still think about it. Shared spaces. You do not evict your cohabitants. You do not lay traps. You do not set fire to nests. You coexist. You learn to recognize the rhythm of beetles on stone, the skitter of roaches over your feet, the soft sigh of a rat returning to its hole, the growl of a dying dog that still guards the latrine. You give them space. They give you silence. It is an agreement. Unspoken. Unbreakable. Ritual animals. Sometimes animals are not companions. They are vessels. The priest once anointed a chicken with sacred oil and declared it possessed by the moon. The chicken promptly ran into a wall and died. The moon was unimpressed. Still, once a month, a goat is dressed in dyed linen and paraded through the streets. Children cheer. Old women whisper wishes into its ears. Then it is taken behind the curtain. The wishes are never granted. In your bed tonight, you curl onto your mat. You know what's beneath it. Fleas. Dried insect husks. A beetle named Gerald, who only comes out on moonless nights. You know what's above. Gerald. Always. A spider in the corner who hasn't moved in 3 days. The faint scratching of something in the rafters with claws and an opinion. You are not alone, but you are not afraid, because they know you, and you know them. And in this world, familiarity is safer than faith. Still conscious? You've accepted your ecosystem. You've befriended the moth, avoided the rat king, and nodded politely to the spider priest. You are part of this biome now. But the night is not done, because even the animals know the weather is changing. Your eyelids twitch, your body is still, but the air has changed. You notice it first in your chest, a tightness like the atmosphere is pressing inward, not down. Then your ears pop. Then the candles flicker. Then Gerald the moth crawls into your collarbone and refuses to come out. Something is coming, and that something is weather. Not, what's the temperature today? Not, should I bring a coat? This is ancient weather. Biblical, apocalyptic, revenge weather. The kind of climate that has opinions, the kind of storm that has its own priest. The sky is a tyrant. It begins with the wind, not a breeze, not playful. This wind arrives with knives. It tastes like sand and metal. It smells like old blood and wet bone. You step outside. Your tunic flaps wildly, not from movement but from panic. The sky is not blue. It's bruised, heavy. The color of forgotten bruises on gods no longer worshipped. People look up and immediately look down. They've seen this before. They do not want to see it again. Climate. A history of violence. You live in a land where the sun is not just hot, it is punitive. Where the rain doesn't fall, it assaults. Where seasons are less cycles of nature and more moods of the divine. Spring brings floods that eat children and erase paths. Summer bakes the world until the water bowls crack and the goats forget how to chew. Autumn is wind, not the poetic kind, the flaying kind. It strips bark, skin, and secrets. Winter doesn't always arrive, but when it does, it arrives screaming. The sandstorms that know your name. Sandstorms are frequent. They arrive without warning. First the sound, a low moan across the valley, then the sky turns yellow, then brown, then everything disappears. You wrap your face in cloth, you press against a wall, you close your eyes, the sand gets in anyway. It always gets in. Between your toes, under your eyelids, inside your thoughts. You've tasted sand that remembers other cities. Floods, brief and disrespectful rain is rare. But when it comes all at once. The first drops are warm, fat, mocking. Then the sky tears open. Rivers wake up angry, cisterns overflow. The temple floods, again. The gods apparently are thirsty. The clay under your feet turns to slime. Children scream, some from joy, some from disappearance. You once watched a chicken float by on a broken mast. You saluted. The chicken winked. You've never eaten chicken since. Heat, slow, unforgiving, intimate. When it's not sand or rain, it's just heat. Not sunny, not pleasant, not good for drying laundry. This heat presses, it wraps around your ribs, it whispers through your tunic seams. The bricks stay warm until midnight. Your skin peels in places you didn't know could peel. The insects get louder. The dogs forget their own names. You sweat through your linen, then through your bandages, then through your thoughts. At a certain temperature, all memories become soup. Storm omens and ritual reactions. Every shift in the wind is a message, or so the elders say. If the birds fly west, prepare the flood basins. If the frogs hide early, bury your tools. If Gerald disappears, cover your windows and hold your breath. There are rituals, of course. Ash circles on your doorway. Salt in your sandals, it burns but protects your souls. Hair plucked and burned as offering, preferably your own, but not always. The high priest once declared a rain dance so vigorous that it summoned a minor landslide. No one blamed him, mostly because he was buried up to the neck and couldn't hear the complaints. The weather and the law. Bad weather is suspicious. Someone must have angered someone. An investigation is launched. Questions are asked. Who cursed the wind? Who forgot the incense on Lunar Day 6? Whose funeral didn't follow protocol? Did anyone eat a fig too early? You try not to be near any accusations. You make your tunic extra wrinkled. They say it confuses the spirits. You hum a neutral song. You never make eye contact with the sky, just in case. The cold, rare and terrifying. Once there was a night so cold the water hissed. Your breath crystallized before it reached your chin. Your toes turned to something brittle. Your neighbors curled together like centipedes. A goat froze standing up. Children threw rocks at it. It did not move. The priests declared the cold a blessing. The people declared the priests no longer invited to dinner. That night Gerald stayed inside your collar. You let him. He warmed your neck better than any sanctioned fire. Tonight's forecast. Omen clouded with possibility. Tonight, the wind is confused. It swirls in half circles. It picks up leaves and dead promises. The torches flicker too low. The stars hide behind a veil of gauze. The elders say the clouds look like bones. You agree, but you don't say it aloud. You pull your blanket closer. You whisper to Gerald, "If it rains, tell me in my sleep." He twitches, which means, maybe. Still breathing? You've survived the weather, or you've ignored it well enough to pretend it isn't watching you, which is almost the same thing. But we're almost there, wanderer. One chapter left. Time to look death in the eye. Because the end always comes. You're tired. Not in the way that means, I'll sleep well. No, you're bone-deep tired. The kind that hums quietly behind your eyes. The kind that makes every breath sound like it's being negotiated. And just as you pull the blanket to your chin, and Gerald the moth settles like punctuation on your collarbone, someone screams. Not far. Not close. One of those distant, resigned screams that doesn't call for help. Because here everyone knows, help isn't coming. Death, regular as rain. In your time, death is not an event, it is a feature. Built into the bricks, scrawled on the ceilings, pressed into your sleeping mat. It's the default outcome. The expected ending. Not feared, not loved, just scheduled. How you might die. Let's review the options. Infection from a scratch, from a cough, from sharing a bowl with someone too pale for too many days. Collapse, under a wall, under a stone, under the weight of one more shift. Sacrifice, volunteered, or volunteered by someone else. Your final role, offering. Mistaken identity, you were not the heretic, but you looked like him, and the ash on your robe was smudged just so. Divine displeasure, your candle blew out. You sneezed during a chant, you stepped on the sacred lizard. Accidental ritual inversion, left incense where the right should be, faced the altar counterclockwise, wore a smile on a fasting day. Food, yes, food. You've seen men felled by stew, figs, and hope. The dead around you, you step outside. It's dark, too quiet. A shape lies by the latrine wall. No one touches it. Not yet. The body is recent, still soft, still cooling. The priest will come before sunrise. He'll draw a circle around it. He'll burn a tuft of sage. He'll whisper, return clean or not at all. Then the body will be lifted, sometimes by hands, sometimes by ropes, sometimes by no one. Mourning, efficient and public. When someone dies, you grieve, but not in private. You smear ash on your face, you wear a strip of bark on your wrist, you eat nothing but sour paste for 2 days. You are expected to cry once, publicly, loudly, then never again. After that, your name is added to the list of those who have witnessed. You are now a step closer to wisdom, or madness, or both. The sick, you've seen them, in doorways, wrapped in linen, staring through things that aren't there. Some shiver in the heat, some speak in numbers, some smell of sweet rot. The healer visits. Sometimes he brings oils, he brings chalk, he draws a glyph above the headboard, if hopeful, if not. You've seen too many lately. Your own body's betrayal. You've been coughing. A little. Just dust. Probably your fingers tingle sometimes. Maybe from work, maybe from spirits. You've been dreaming of stairs again, and water, and someone whispering your name with no mouth. Gerald listens, wings twitching like he's heard it too. You say nothing. Not even to yourself. You're not sick. Not yet. Funerary practices, depending on status. If you're important, you get a carved tomb, perfumed linens, weeping actors, food offerings, a rock with your name spelled mostly correctly. If you're you get a mat, a ditch, a quick chant, a reused charm, and a promise they were here, they worked. That's the whole eulogy. That's the legacy. The end of the day. You lie back down. The sky above is thick with stars, more than there should be. One blinks, one falls. One moves sideways, then disappears. You close your eyes, your bones sink, you are warm, you are sore, you are still. Your candle flickers, then steadies. Gerald crawls closer, tucks into the hollow of your throat. You breathe slowly, intentionally. You say nothing, because nothing needs saying. You've lived another day, which is no small thing. In this world it's everything. Still awake? Then you're a survivor, a witness, a relic of your own story. You made it, through filth, ritual, hunger, teeth, and prayer. And if you dream tonight, let it be of water, of quiet, of mornings where your name is still your own. Good night, wanderer. Sleep well. You are no longer in that century, but part of you always will be.